Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa,
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score! And we'll see you next week, but until then, as always, go Chiefs. Welcome in. It's the Arrowhead Addict podcast, Chiefs postgame show. Patrick Allen Sterling Holmes here with you. It is the 13th, lucky 13 victory party of the season. The Kansas City Chiefs defeat the Cleveland Browns 21-7. Lots to talk about in this game. Some good, still a lot of bad, still a lot of things that need to be cleaned up. But at the end of the day, a win is a win. Chiefs are 13-1, and they are right up against that number 1 seed. Sterling, overall thoughts on this game?
Yeah, man, I don't even know where to start. I almost want to at least start positive because the Chiefs are 13-1. I know it doesn't feel like it, everyone, but the Chiefs defense was outstanding in this one. I guess I will start positive here. We'll get into a lot of negatives, a lot of building spots, a lot of cracks in the foundation, of course, and of course, Patrick going down with the injury. But defensively, this was one of the best this Chiefs team has looked all season long for a defense that's not opportunistic. This is what they needed to see. They needed to see Jameis Winston. But it wasn't just Jameis Winston. It was Nick Chubb. It was Christian Roland Wallace punching the ball out on a special team on a punt return by the Browns. Like, it wasn't just Jameis making poor decisions. Jameis made 2 horrendous decisions on deep balls, which he's prone to do, and the Chiefs were apt to take advantage of that. Give a huge shout out to Trent McDuffie, his first interception of his career. Very happy and excited for him. Jaden Hicks, obviously, at the very end of the game. They forced 6 turnovers. That is awesome. But that's almost where the goodness stops. The defensive line, by the way, was outstanding yet again. Charles Omenihu coming back in this game Charles Omenihu coming back into the Chiefs defensive rotation over the past couple of weeks, coming back in that Panthers game. Charles has made such a massive impact, not just on him. He could have had a second sack himself in this game, let Dorian Thompson-Robinson go by. But you see what he does for George Karlaftis, for Chris Jones, for Turk Wharton. Ever since he came back, this defensive line has started to get a lot more pressure. So again, huge hat tip to the Chiefs defense. I will let you take the floor now as far as either positives or a whole bunch of negatives going forward.
Yeah, I think, look, it's a tale of 2 units, right? The defense was sensational, and the offense was dog crap. Like, that's what it was. Defense fantastic in this game, and look, people are going to point to the Jameis Winston interceptions, and I did say on the preview show, hey, Jameis Winston's going to give the Chiefs at least 3 opportunities to intercept him in this game, and they need to catch at least one of them. Well, they caught all 3 of them. Actually, one of those was that last one DTR? No, did Winston throw a 3?
No,
he threw 3.
That was Nick Bolton
4.
making a phenomenal play, because Nick Bolton made a ridiculous play on Nick Chubb on that one. That wasn't really on Winston. That was just Bolton making a really good play.
Yeah, Bolton made a great play, but it was out there. It wasn't right to the running back, and Bolton was able to bat it off the running back and catch it. But yes, it was 3 interceptions for Watson, and then DTR comes in and throws one as well. The big thing that stands out to me, and again, you're watching the Arrowhead Addict podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that like button and check out the links in the description if you want to become a member of the Arrowhead Addict community. Sterling, for me, it started with the pass rush. They had juice at the beginning of this game. It wasn't just Chris Jones. Charles Omenihu was getting involved. Karlaftis, who looked like he was just sort of off for a few weeks there, he was getting pressure. And they weren't necessarily getting sacks early on, but they were collapsing the pocket quickly. They were making Jameis Winston move around. And like I said, a lot of people are going to say, hey, Jameis Winston got benched. He's terrible. The Browns turned the ball over a whole bunch of times, and that's why the Chiefs defense did well. Look, man, this is an offense, a Browns offense, that absolutely lit up a very good Denver Broncos defense just a couple of weeks ago. the thing about Jameis Winston, the thing why some of us were worried about this game was he's such a gunslinger, and yeah, he's going to throw interceptions that might ultimately cost him the game, but he's also going to take shots. He's going to try to get big plays. And I thought by and large, the Chiefs held up in the secondary in this one. A few mistakes here and there. Judy got free a few times and had, 11 receptions for 108 yards in this game. But by and large, the Chiefs did what they needed to do defensively. Obviously had a breakdown on the Jerome Ford run. But you have to remember, the Chiefs offense was so pathetic in this game that it's amazing that the defense actually only gave up 7 points, because if the Chiefs had moved the ball, gotten more first downs, this could have been a much bigger blowout. I'm talking like 30, 40 to nothing in this game.
Well, I mean, and that's what it comes down to. 21-7, the Chiefs win by 2 scores. They finally cover. But the offense was just atrocious. It was anemic. This was one of the worst games I've seen Patrick Mahomes play in his NFL career. But it wasn't, again, all on him. The play calling was brutal. I don't know how much of that was him changing at the line of scrimmage from runs to passes, but knowing Andy Reid, there were probably passes to begin with. But not only that, the offensive line, for the most part, wasn't good. Like, I know it's Myles Garrett, but this was my concern with Joe Toney in there. I think Joe Toney was better than the last 2 weeks of starting of Wanya Morris, but it wasn't like Joe Toney came in and was a blockade on that left side. He just died slow deaths, which that's all he was going to be able to do when you have 32.25-inch arms going up against Myles Garrett. That is too difficult. You're not going to be able to extend your arms and really win. Your goal is to die a slow death, almost like the offensive line on field goal units. But Joe Toney did just enough. The offensive line did just enough. A lot of times I'm sitting here going, Patrick, throw the ball away. Patrick, just do something. I know there was a lot of pressure. I don't know who to blame. We'll have to watch the all 22 afterwards. But, man, that was just brutal play calling. That, to me, is what it comes down to. Whether it's the O-line or Patrick, save them. Help them. Quick passes. And, by the way, I know some folks are going to talk about the Chiefs' inability to run the football. I know that's going to be some of the naysayers of why the Chiefs kept passing. I get that. But also, stop running to the left side. Stop running to Joe Toney and Caliendo on the left side. It's not working. What are we doing here, y'all? Run to Trey Smith, who's one of the best run-blocking guards in the entire NFL. You're having success. Run to the right side. And don't try and pitch it out to the outside of Juwan Taylor. Run up the middle to the right side behind Trey. Every time the Chiefs did, they had success. I'm sitting here in the first quarter and I can realize this. I get it. They have more analytics than I will ever know and all this stuff. They know more about football than I'll ever forget. It's absurd. I know this stuff. But if we can realize, just get the ball and run behind Trey, it's working. Stop trying to pass and stop trying to run to the left. It's just that simple.
I'll disagree with you a little bit on Joe Toney. I thought he was sensational in this game. I know he was getting pushed back by the strength of Myles Garrett a few times there, but you said it yourself. It's Myles friggin' Garrett. Like, if you go out there, if you're Joe Toney, I mean, if you look at it in context, you're a guard, you're playing left tackle, first time in a while for an entire game against, in my opinion, pound for pound, the best pass rusher in the NFL, but definitely top 3 in the NFL. And you go out there and that dude doesn't get a sack. That's incredible. That Patrick Mahomes was not sacked in this game. Now, he was hit a lot. He was hit 12 times in this game. And I'm going to have to go back and look at the tape. It's unfair. I mainly focused. I didn't look at Caliendo much in the small bits we're able to see on the broadcast. I was watching Joe Toney because I wanted to see how he was playing. Anytime they showed a replay, I wanted to see how he was holding up. And I thought he was fantastic. He was one-on-one with Myles Garrett a bunch of different times, and he held up. My hunch is that when I go back and I look at the tape, it started to break down a little bit in the second half. And I think it was mainly Patrick Mahomes, a combination of Patrick Mahomes getting skittish in the pocket, not yet trusting things. And look, it has to be said, the offensive line has had its struggles this year, but it's also a problem with the wide receivers. There just aren't any on this team right now that are consistently reliable for Patrick Mahomes, that are consistently getting open. Hopkins is a great addition. I'm glad the Chiefs got him. Yes. And he caught 5 of his 6 targets in this game, right? And maybe they need to go to him more. But they targeted Xavier Worthy in this game 11 times. 6 yards, 46 receptions. He had a couple drops. This is the problem, right? Is he's not making that leap, and Hopkins is old. Kelsey had 4 catches for 27 yards.
Wait, you had an issue with Xavier Worthy in this game? Because I had no issue with Xavier. I thought Xavier was great. Like, I mean maybe great's too strong of a word because he didn't break some of those tackles. I thought Xavier Worthy was a really nice piece in this game. I was very pleased. The whip route, you saw the little corn dog motion, with Carson Wentz in the game. I actually thought, again, he's not perfect. I think he dropped 1. Maybe I'm misremembering.
I counted 2.
Okay.
Like 2, yeah.
I remember. That's fine. I remember 1 specifically, but either way, I thought Xavier Worthy actually had a pretty darn good game. Personally, I'll give you a slight pushback there.
Yeah, it wasn't horrible. I mean, but 11 targets, 6 catches. It was a combination. You see the 2 drops, and then there were a couple times. Once I thought he was open, but Mahomes way overthrew him, and that's one of those ones where us sitting here behind the microphone, there's no way for us really to know whose fault it was. Right? Was it Worthy? Was Mahomes expecting him to flatten out or to keep going more on the sail route, but he flattened out too much? Or was it just a bad throw from Mahomes? We don't know. But right now, when I say it's not working, like it just the Mahomes Worthy connection, it's not taken off like it did late in the season for Mahomes and Rashee Rice last year.
I'm going to say it's on Patrick. I'll say it because it's not just Worthy. He's missing everyone on the deep ball, right? So at some point, what's been the common denominator? It's been Patrick on these deep balls. Now, I get it. The offensive line's not helping him out, so I think he is getting a little bit of happy feet back there and maybe making him rush the football out a little early. But clearly, to me, the one common denominator is Patrick on the deep ball. He's a great quarterback. The best in the NFL still. It doesn't take anything away, but if there is a weakness to his game right now, it's been Patrick Mahomes and the deep ball. They are way off. So whether it's route or not, they shouldn't all be that off. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and he took a couple of shots in this game that he should not have taken. And the Browns, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly from my research earlier in the week, run the highest rate of single high safety in the NFL. I don't know how much he saw of that today. Teams usually stick to what they do, regardless of who they're facing. I think that it was clear the Chiefs were trying to get the ball downfield in this game, that they thought that they were going to have opportunities. When he forced that ball into double coverage to Justin Watson, I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like, I know you want to push the ball downfield, but it's got to be there. You can't throw into double coverage. And of course, Watson gets the pass interference because he's trying to, he's double coverage. He's trying to climb his way to the ball. It's never one thing, right? It's not just that Mahomes is playing badly this year. It's not just the offensive line, and it's not just the situation at wide receiver. It's all of those things. So, hopefully with Hollywood Brown coming back and practicing, I know they don't want to rush him out there, but if they could even get him out there for just a handful of snaps, 5 to 10 snaps against Houston, I would love that. Just start. Just give Mahomes some looks with him, because I'll tell you what, man, as the offense is right now, unless they've got something up their sleeve, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough when they go up against some of the more high octane offenses, because this defense isn't bulletproof like it was last year.
Yeah, but again, the defense was outstanding in this one. And I see a lot of comments I'm going to get to that are funny. This is the most joyless 13-1 fan base. Hey, I get it. I know we're nitpicking here. It's just frustrating when the Chiefs finally win by multiple scores, which we've all been asking, right? Everyone's been asking, come on, can you just put a game away? Can you win by 2 scores? The Chiefs do, on the back of 6 turnovers, and the offense looks absolutely anemic. It's a fascinating dichotomy of, yeah, maybe you guys are right. We'll never be happy. We were expecting perfection, but maybe we aren't expecting perfection. We're expecting average on offense, or at least all 3 facets to look fine. Butker missing a field goal, the punt god looking like the punt dog. I mean, he was atrocious out there. But I do want to get to it.
Real quick, I know you want to get. Yeah, it was bad by Reza. And I know you want to get to super chats. I just want to interject off what you said in the comment. Look, we have different, it's all about perspective, right? The Chiefs fans have a different perspective than most other teams in the league right now. So, what our expectations for the team, which I can't believe I'm saying this after being a Chiefs fan through the 90s, is to win the Super Bowl or to be in there for the Super Bowl. So that's how we're evaluating the team, because when you have a team like this, what does success look like? That's important to define for any organization. Yes, every NFL team is trying to win the Super Bowl, but there's the teams out there that know, they're not going to win the Super Bowl. if you're the Titans, you're the Bears, you're some of these teams, you're trying to make progress towards that goal and win as many games as you can. Kansas City Chiefs, you've won back-to-back Super Bowls. Anything other than winning the Super Bowl this year is a failure. So when we sit down on this podcast to evaluate the team, like if we were the Bears or the Jets fans and we were 13-1, we'd be flipping the fuck out. We'd be beside ourselves with glee and we wouldn't care about anything. We'd be like, they're the greatest team of all time. It's just a different standard in Kansas City right now for Chiefs fans. So we're going to sit down and we're going to evaluate them on what the goal is, which is to be a Super Bowl winning team. All right, that's done with that. I'll let you get the super chats.
All right, Christian Steele. Hopefully you're related to Carson. Appreciate you. Says, what scenarios clinch the 1 seed today? Appreciate the super chat, Christian. None today, but huge help if Detroit and Philly wins. If those two teams win and they beat the Bills and the Steelers, the Chiefs' magic number then drops to 1. I guess the Chiefs. Yeah, they need both those two teams to win. And then if the Chiefs win next week or one in the last 3, they're good to go. So they can't win it today, but we're still Lions and Eagles fans today. Justin says, say it after me. Quick passes, play action. Justin, you and I have been on the same page on that, my guy. Appreciate the super chat there. Yeah, I would love to see Patrick more under center. We saw one game this year where I thought, okay, maybe the Chiefs will run more Patrick under center, more play action. Yet that was just a phase, apparently like me being emo in high school. Slothy style, appreciate you. Always with the number $21.07. Appreciate you, Slothy. Says, never a doubt, 13-1, 6 turnovers. Who even is this team? Great games for Trent Pick Stuffy and Jaden Picks. Jameis, WINT stun, doing WINT stun things, LOL. Jameis Winston. Yeah, man. 6 turnovers. That's got to be a huge talking point. I know we're going to have the deep dive into everything, but that defense, I still want to give flowers to because I don't want to be all angry. I don't want to talk about all the negativity, which, again, is legitimate. It's real, and I understand. But the defense had their best game of the season. They were opportunistic for the first time this year. They took advantage of bad throws. They were good in the run game outside of one play on 2nd and 23, the Jerome Ford 63-yard touchdown run. But they bottled up Nick Chubb. They bottled up the offense outside of Jerry Jeudy the majority of the game. The defensive line was great. Again, I was very impressed, and I honestly wasn't even that upset with Josh Williams getting one of the penalties early in the game because that was what L'Jarius Sneed would do. That's what Bashaud Breeland would do. And you hear Spagnuolo talk about it. He doesn't mind his cornerbacks getting a little handsy or a little physical at times. Quite frankly, I thought it was a little ticky-tack that was a penalty. So I was okay with it. For the most part, I think the secondary did a decent job. Jaden Hicks starting to get more PT. I feel horrible for Shamari Connor. That guy looked like he had no idea where he was at when he got back up. So I'm hoping that Shamari Connor is going to be okay. Wonder if he misses a game or 2 with that head injury. Looks like a concussion. But I think the secondary played maybe their best game of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to Wiley Possum for the super chat. It says D was dominating today. I don't care if Winston was a quarterback. D dominated a bad team. Need offense trying to rise above to get more consistency, but really this game was never that close. On to Houston. Go Lions and Eagles, 1 seed within reach. Absolutely. Yeah, look, I was really pleased with the way that the secondary played. I was a little annoyed that Jerry Jeudy was able to have the day that he did have, just because I just didn't really feel like there was any other threat with Njoku out on the Browns offense. And usually Spagnuolo tries to just take guys away. But look, shout out to Jerry Jeudy. He's been on a heater the last few weeks. He's finally starting to look like he's maybe reaching his potential of a number 1 pick. And the dude balled out. Like he just did. And while he was able to help them move the chains, when the Chiefs needed stops, they were able to get them the whole game. And the 5 sacks, man, like you got half a sack from Bolton, half a sack from Tranquil, Turk Wharton. But what about that play, Turk Wharton on the tackle on the run where he was out leveraged, he just spun around the dude and made the tackle. Turk Wharton's been having a fantastic season. And you just don't want to see Brian Cook in one-on-one coverage with Jerry Jeudy. Can we try to avoid that.
We saw Karlaftis. Wasn't it Karlaftis one-on-one?
Karlaftis was out there once. Yeah. I'm hoping that it was just, he was just there. I'm just hoping that his responsibility was just the flat and that the safety was there over top because, that was giving me a little bit of a heart. Anytime you see Furious George dropping back into coverage, it's a little scary. Shout out to Jay Ward, who's been a member for 30 months of the Ring of Honor here at the Arrowhead Addict, says, go Lions and Eagles, and Anime 2077 with the super chat says, I'm thankful we have an above average backup quarterback, to be honest. Look, let's talk about the injury. I know we're talking about some of the good stuff right now, but Mahomes is hurt, and you can look at this one of two ways, right? It's bad news. His ankle's banged up, and we're going into the stretch run here. Or you can look at it like every time the Chiefs win a Super Bowl, Mahomes has some weird injury at some point during the season. And that somebody was saying in the Arrowhead Addict private Discord for our members, and forgive me, I don't remember which one of you it was. If you're watching right now, sound off in the chat for credit. But he said Mahomes getting an injury, like heading into the playoffs, is like Popeye getting his can of spinach, which we do know this. Look, that's how this dude is wired, man. Like he plays his best when his back is against the wall. But yeah, offense really struggling right now. What's your take on the Mahomes injury, Sterling, and the fact that it happened on a fourth down where I understood why they were going for it? A punt would have kind of been silly in that spot, but you did have a 2-score lead.
Not great, Bob. Not great.
It was slothy. It was slothy who said it. Of course it was.
But yeah, let's get into the play call first. I'm going to get into the 4th and 3 before we get into Patrick's injury, if that's okay with you. I just want to break this down and give my quick 2 cents on this. I didn't mind them going for it for a multitude of reasons. One, I think they probably kicked a field goal more times than not if Harrison Butker is healthy. But with that long of a field goal, that much torque going on to that leg, I don't think they were going to risk trying it there, especially after he snap hooked that 29-yarder, looked like me with a driver in my hand. So I think that's the majority of why they went for it there. We've, at least myself, have been begging for Andy Reid to be more aggressive on these 4th and shorts on the other side of the field. So I don't want to turn back now that it was the result that I did not want. I think that would make me a hypocrite. So I was fine with them going with it. And another reason why I thought that, I saw it from Chris Albright in the chat. Always appreciate you, Chris. I know sometimes you and I go back and forth here. Yeah, I know it's hard to punt when guys are flying at you, but that's his job. Like, I know it's difficult, but Tommy Townsend sure seemed to do it pretty well. Dustin Colquitt sure seemed to do it pretty well too. I'm not saying cut Ariza, but this was a horrible game for Ariza, in my opinion. Again, I know it's difficult, but I've seen Ariza do much better than this. If you're going to be nicknamed the punt god, you got to have better than a 30-yard punt, a 40-yard punt. His best punt of the game was his final one, which quite frankly may have gone into the end zone if the punt returner for the Browns wasn't being was a little smarter. So in this instance of them going for it as well, Ariza wasn't punting the ball very well. So what are you going to do? You're kind of left with one situation, which is go for it, which was the right decision. The offensive line just did not do their job. The play call was poor, and Patrick was under pressure and got rolled upon. It was a freak. I don't want to say freak because it's football and accidents happen every single game. A lot of times, almost every single snap. I don't have an issue with the play call personally.
Yeah, no, they're trying to win the game, put it away. You're not going to gain very much yardage in terms of punts there anyway. And I'm with you on Ariza. Look, man, on that bad punt he had, they were backed up. That's what you have that guy for. Like, because he has that massive leg, you're like, go ahead and flip the field. Now, to be fair, they're on the lake at Lake Erie. That stadium is on the lake. So I have no idea what the wind conditions were like there today. It was a bad weather day, rain on and off, sleet, kind of cold. So it could have been a wind thing that hurt him on that one. Speaking of kickers, our boy Butker's back, which is good, but missed the field goal. Leg buckled a little bit. A lot of people were saying that's sort of his style. He's been doing that for a while. So it's hard, but so it's because of that, it's hard to know, was it just a bad kick from him or did the leg actually buckle a little bit on him? And that's why, because it was a really bad kick. Like it looked like it was the result of the leg buckling the way it hooked on him. But I will see what he says after the game.
He does this. This is nothing new for Harrison. He's been doing it actually a couple of years now. I know a lot of folks started realizing it this year, but this is nothing new for Harrison. He he has so much torque. And I guess for him, in his mind, maybe that alleviates some of it by going down to one knee. I know in baseball, sometimes you would see like Adrian Beltre. If you remember Adrian Beltre, third baseman for the Rangers for a long time, he would go down to one knee when he would swing sometimes because of the torque, right? So I wonder what's going through Butker when he does that. I wonder how much of it was physical versus mental. Did it actually buckle, or was it like a mental situation where he was trying to test it out? I'm fine with him kicking a field goal in that situation, though some people didn't. I thought, okay, at that point, you would go up 3 scores. You're also trying to get Butker back into the swing of things. He's kicked extra points, but not a field goal so far. I would have been okay with letting Butker sit out another week. I wouldn't have rushed him back. Matthew Wright's been really solid for Kansas City. His only missed field goal was that, 59-yarder. Yeah, and again, it was a little interesting. You're okay with Justin Reed doing the kickoffs, which clearly shows that you're not ready to say Butker's healthy yet. So that dichotomy or back and forth didn't make a lot of sense with Harrison, in my opinion. I would have waited a week with him, but at least now we can see him in game action. Maybe he feels more comfortable getting some legit snaps, not just practice reps.
Yeah, and plus the operation was bad on that play as well. They remember originally we were going to go for it. Then the Browns called a timeout. Then the Chiefs sent out the field goal unit, but nobody told James Winchester and Matt Ariza, so they weren't on the field, and Butker was screaming for them right before the play. Not the ideal situation to send your kicker who's been on the shelf for a while and make his first field goal, and then he's got to worry about rushing because guys aren't where they're supposed to be. That was a weird situation too. I wondered, are the Chiefs just pretending to go like they have a play? They had to go for it because they had called a timeout. So they weren't just trying to get the Browns to use their last timeout. And so because they were out there, they would have, maybe they were going to take a delay of game. And that's the only thing I could think of. They were trying to get the Browns because there was about 20 some seconds left.
And they had a timeout left. The Chiefs did, right? They could have just called the timeout with one.
Well, they had called timeout before deciding to go for it. So they can't call consecutive timeouts.
Oh, well, yes, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, I think the first one when they went out there, they were going to try and make the Browns use that final timeout, I think. Yeah. But then it sounded like they didn't relay that to the offensive line or to special teams, that they were going to go and kick it then. And that was where the confusion came in from. That should not happen in that situation. They were lucky that they had enough time left on the clock. But I think they did want the Browns to use that final timeout for that exact reason, where if they were going to miss, or if he makes it and they get the ball at the 30-yard line, a 20-yard pass attempt, they get the ball to 50, they try a 65-yard or something like that. I wonder how much of that played a factor. But I do think they tried to make sure the Browns used that final timeout.
By the way, for our live viewers, the Bills, with 7:55 to go in the first, are up on the Lions 7-0. It's 4th and 18, and Detroit is punting. And the Eagles have a 3-0 lead over the Steelers. So we'll keep you updated on that if you're watching live. If you're listening to this tomorrow, I'm sorry. You already know what happened. All right. Let's talk a little bit about this offense, Sterling. Like, how concerned are you? Do you think this is fixable? Again, I'll say what we said on Thursday. On December 25th, on Christmas last year, the Chiefs offense looked about as bad as it possibly could. But it felt a little different, right? It felt like these guys just can't catch. Mahomes has nobody to throw to. And this year, it's sort of like these guys can't really get open on a consistent basis. They mostly catch the ball when it comes to them, but there's no rhythm with this offense.
I disagree with the getting open aspect, because I think this Chiefs wide receiving core has gotten open. Not just the Chiefs wide receivers, even with Travis Kelce, taking a step back this year, Noah Gray's been absolutely outstanding. DeAndre Hopkins, again, might not get the most separation, but he comes down with the ball more times than not. I do think Xavier Worthy gets a good amount of separation. I think Xavier actually does get separation. That's not the issue. I have no issues with the weapons of this Kansas City Chiefs team. It's Patrick on the deep ball, and then it's the offensive line. But the issue is this Chiefs team has two real weaknesses: the offensive line at tackles, and then the Chiefs secondary. The Chiefs secondary was electric in this game. So maybe this is the turning point they needed. Maybe they just needed to get their a game where they go, okay, we can do this. Najee Johnson, Joshua Williams, all these guys saying, okay, maybe Christian Roland Wallace. Okay, maybe we are good enough. Maybe we can do this the rest of the year into the playoffs. They needed to see something positive go their way. But last year it was just the receivers, right? The receivers were just that bad. They lost 6 games. But this year there is almost 2 weaknesses in this team, even though they are 13-1. But I don't think it's the receivers at all. Like I would push back there. I think they are getting open. I think Patrick struggled on the deep ball. He doesn't trust his offensive line, so he gets happy feet. Whoever you want to blame, that's fine. But clearly to me, that's the issue.
I think there have been games, and I have seen people doing film study where Patrick is missing open receivers, right? But you can't look at this offense and say, oh yeah, these weapons are great. Like there's very few games the Chiefs go into where I think they have the advantage from a weapon standpoint, particularly at the wide receiver position. DeAndre Hopkins has been here for a minute. I know he's still getting acclimated, but he's pretty much at this point so far a chain mover guy, right? And what you're seeing from him is, at least so far, what it seems like we can expect. 5 catches, 36 yards, 8 yards a catch. Worthy is hit or miss. He's explosive. If he figures it out, it could change everything. But Kelsey, 4 for 27 against this Browns team that has not been great against tight ends. You got Samaje Perine. Like Pacheco doesn't seem like he's got his legs back under him fully yet. I thought Hunt had a couple nice runs in this game.
Yeah.
But it's not the worst. Last year was the worst set of offensive weapons I've ever seen. They were absolutely horrible.
I want to get in this question by Michael S. I think this is an interesting one here. Michael says, are they forcing to Worthy on purpose, preparing for playoffs? Already know Juju and Hopkins, what those guys can do. Do the playoffs look totally different on who is targeted? I think that is a pretty interesting thought process here. Like, maybe that's why they're not completely abandoning the deep ball. It's like, hey, we have a 14-point lead. We're up 14 points. We need to still do this in game action. We can hit this all day in practice. That clearly is not translating to the game. Why not try and get it when you're up 2 scores? I wonder if there's something to that, Michael. I thought the same thing too, just going through my mind. I would like to see more Hopkins just in general. I don't know why he's not playing more snaps. I don't know why he's not getting more targets. Good things happen when the ball goes his way. Hell, on one of the throws to Hopkins, he saved Patrick. Patrick's so far behind him, and Hopkins' massive Johnny Vincian hands snatched that ball out of the air. Just my 2 cents, but I think there might be something to continuously trying to bring Worthy and that deep ball along, even when it's not working, just hoping they can try and find something before playoff time.
Yeah. We had somebody in the comments here. James says, are we 13-1 or 1-13? You're so negative. Maybe change quarterback for one game. Hey, listen, James, they're not playing well. Like, I don't know what to tell you. They're 13-1, but they're not playing well. If they won this game 40-7 and Mahomes had 300 yards with 3 touchdowns and he didn't get hit a million times, I don't think you'd be hearing a lot of negative talk from us. We're evaluating the game that was played. We're not here. What's the point of watching the podcast if we're not going to tell you what we think? Like, I don't get it. So listen, if you're new here, we're fans. I'm covered in Chiefs stuff here. But we're not just going to sit here and blow smoke up your ass and be like, yeah, everything's fine. Everything's great.
Why would you even do that? Like,
what's the point?
How would you even blow smoke there? Like that's a very weird thing for you to do, Patrick.
Yeah, it says very strange to blow. I would never blow smoke up someone's ass. I
didn't even know you smoked, Patrick. That's wild. I learned a lot. Hookah? Is it a hookah?
Back in the day, I was a pack a day guy. Grad school. That's what you do. What did you see any silver linings or positives from the offense in this game? We mentioned Kareem Hunt, who had a nice run or 2 in this game against his old team. What did you see that you liked?
Yeah, before I get into what I saw and what I liked from the Chiefs, I think we should probably tell the folks what we like from Underdog Fantasy. Am I right, Patrick?
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, we absolutely should. Thank you for the reminder, and now's a good time to get this out of the way. Underdog is the place to play. If you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports, with over 5 million happy players and 2 billion won, Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in on all your favorite athletes' performances. Compete against other players just by selecting higher or lower on 2 or more player stats, and you could win up to, listen to this, 1,000 times your money. So turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog. Another great thing they have is a vulture protection. So if you selected a designated running back to score a touchdown with your pick'em entry and it gets vultured, they will rescue your entry It's pretty cool. Just download the app today and use our code Arrowhead. That's one word to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, that's our code Arrowhead. All one word. Great way to support the show to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Sterling, take it away.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado, for some games 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and President State where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona 1-800-639-8783 or text next step 253342. New York, call 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8 Hope and Wire. Text Hope and Wire 467-369.
I hope Richard was timing that one.
Please, that better have been a time. That needed to be a time.
That was it. I thought that beat, what is 16 seconds is the record?
Yeah. Richard, please, can you go back maybe at some point in time that thing? I don't know if you get it right there, but that feels like a 14 in front of it.
Yeah, we can go back because we're taping this. We're gonna upload.
I'm gonna need that one from you, Richard. I'm gonna need that from you.
Richard, just what Richard wants to do with this Sunday night. I'm gonna go out and buy a stopwatch with like extra the nanoseconds on it. So
it's like 1980s 40-yard dash times where you're just doing that.
right. Just standing there smoking a cigarette, watching the kids run, working the stopwatch. So what did you see? What did you see that you liked from the offense in this game? Because there were a couple nice plays.
I love Trey Smith in the run game. I thought Trey Smith had one of his best run blocking games. I really do think Creed Humphrey did as well the majority of his game, but Trey Smith was incredibly impressive. Dragging, carrying, pushing, however you want to call it, Kareem Hunt a couple times. And this is why I was getting so frustrated with the Chiefs when they would run the ball, which was clearly not enough, but they would run to the left, where you have a backup left guard in, where Joe Toney is playing left tackle. Like, you're not getting an advantage there. When they ran to the right not behind Juwan, behind Trey Smith, they were getting 4, 5, 6 plus yard gains. I don't know why they went away from that. I really thought Trey Smith had a phenomenal game.
Yeah, he's fantastic. The interior of that offensive line. I'm really excited to go back and get a look at how Caliendo was playing, because I just wonder, as I mentioned earlier, in my opinion, Joe Toney played great. In my opinion, Joe Toney is the best left tackle on this team right now. And I think if you get Hollywood Brown back, especially, and now it opens things up more for you down the field. We don't know what we have in DJ Humphries. Like, he just got here. He wasn't good. Understandable, right? Understandable given how long he had been off. When is he going to get back? What do we do for the play? Is this enough games to test it, or do you, if he's not going to be good enough, do you want Joe Toney to get as many reps out there at left tackle as possible? So I'll be curious to see what decisions they make moving forward. And I think a lot of that might come down to how well Mike Caliendo played. If Mike Caliendo is playing well and they're happy with his play at guard, maybe they do leave Joe Toney out there. But obviously, I mentioned earlier, I thought Toney was good. Offensive silver linings.
Please tell me you're laughing at Sterling lip syncs, because that got me from Oregon fishing. That's great. Sterling lip syncs.
Yeah. You tape it early and then you hit the play button.
I would never do that.
Yeah, you would. You're a man of integrity. Look, Noah Gray, two receptions for 21 yards and a touchdown, continues to just make plays for this team when they need people to make plays, and it's not happening a lot. I like some of the things I saw from Xavier Worthy in this game. Let's not sleep on the fact that he was part of the run game. He had that 21-yard run, three carries for 30 yards and a touchdown in this game. That was a really nice play from him. So look, he is, maybe it has not, it's not where we'd like it to be yet with him and Mahomes in the connection, but this guy's no bum. He's not a bust. He is electric when he gets the ball in his hands, and he is making an impact in games. He's a playmaker. There were a couple of times, and this happens maybe at least once a game with Worthy, I feel, where like there's like a shoestring tackle on him, and you're
only once a game? I thought Worthy played a really nice game. He had about 6.
Yeah, and this one there were more than a few plays where I was like, man, like if he just broke that tackle, I don't know what was going to happen. So that's really exciting to see. And hopefully he just continues to develop and he's able to take the next step. And I'm wondering I'm just fascinated about how they're going to use him and everybody else once Hollywood Brown gets back, because we don't know. We know Hollywood Brown is kind of a deep threat, but the only play that we've seen him in a Chiefs uniform, he was not going deep. He was coming across the middle, I think, on kind of a drag route, and then he got tackled. So we have no idea what their plan is for Hollywood Brown or how everything's going to fall into place once he gets back on the field. But hopefully, if Toney or Humphreys or whoever can solidify the left side of that line, and getting Hollywood back can give a little bit more juice to this offense. I'm telling you, man, the one thing I know is that when this offense gets to the playoffs, they're going to open up that playbook, and they are not going to look like they do now. I don't think they'll necessarily, like, their deficiencies are their deficiencies. And you see it, right? Like when they went into that game against Baltimore last year, they came out, they were looking really good. They were getting the ball to Kelsey. They went down and they scored. And then after that, is like they were out of tricks. Baltimore had a very good defense last year, and it was just like, hang on. And we've seen that in other playoff games, in other big games with them. Against Cincinnati, the defense empties the clip against Cincinnati in the AFC Championship game, shuts them out for a quarter, and then Cincinnati gets it going, and like they're out of tricks, and then they're able to hang on. So they have the coaching advantage, and they definitely have things that we haven't seen, and maybe more so this year than any other year, because they have the whole Hollywood Brown playbook that nobody has seen. So that could be an advantage for them when they get to the postseason.
The one, and I don't disagree. I mean, I will find out. I just am somewhat tampering expectations on Hollywood because I don't have an issue with the Chiefs wide receivers or weapons pass catching wise. They're not an issue. He can elevate, sure, especially hopefully on those underneath routes. I'm not expecting the deep ball to all of a sudden get connection between him and Patrick after Patrick has not connected with hardly anyone on deep balls this entire season. It's the offensive line. And what's again, I don't know this happened as much in the second half, and maybe some folks can correct me, but in the first half, it really looked like they gave Joe Toney a ton of help. They gave Joe Toney, whether it was Noah Gray or Anthony Ferkser or it was Kareem Hunt, like they gave him a lot of chips, a lot of help. I don't know if they did in the second half or not, but I'm sitting here going, why couldn't you have done that with Kingsley? Why couldn't you have done that with Wanye Morris? Because, again, I do think the run game struggles when you move Joe Toney away from left guard. I do think he might be the best left tackle on the team. You probably won't hear any disagreement there, but he's the best left guard in football. So when you're moving, and Caliendo is fine, but he's not the best left guard in football. So I wonder if you could still move Joe Toney back to left guard, bring Wanye out, and have the same game plan. Maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe that doesn't give Mahomes more time, and it's still a disaster. But you at least have a couple of weeks to play around now and figure it out, because the Browns do have a great pass rush. I know Myles Garrett missed a little bit. I felt horrible for him. That has to be such a painful injury.
That was scary.
Very scary.
That is no wimp. Like, you know what I mean? Like you or me get poked in the eye and we might be, on the ground acting like that. But like that dude plays professional football. And if you've ever seen him, he is no wimp. So that had to have been incredibly painful for him. It sounds like Nick Chubb broke his foot. Unfortunately, he's been an incredible story fighting his way back. Some other news.
Wait, how? It was on the RPO or the option, right? It was on an option play. He didn't even get hit, I don't think.
Yeah, who knows, man? Stress. Getting a little bit older, you're going through that whole rehab process. Maybe there's a hairline thing that happened on another play in there, and that gives way. I'm no doctor for sure, but from Andy on the injury to Patrick Mahomes. Patrick's right ankle has been hurt. It's not broken, but it's sore. He'll get started on the rehab part of it, and we'll just go from there and have to see how he does down the road here. So that is a bummer. And then he said on Shamari Connor has a concussion. Tough kid. Boy, I'll tell you, he took a wallop and he gave a wallop and got kneed in the side of the head there. But he's doing well now, which is the most important thing, and we should be good there. So that's the tough one, right? With these two injuries, this is where this kind of scheduling from the NFL really sucks, right? You got the Chiefs playing Sunday, then they have to play on Saturday. Okay, that's not horrible. It's a short week, but it's one day, but that's one less day for treatment. one less day for somebody, especially with somebody with a concussion like Jamari Connor. You got to be really careful there. Sometimes guys can't even come back in a week. So you may be without him. And then you're looking at Mahomes and this ankle, and you're like, if we play him on Saturday, he's got to play another game in 3 days against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense on the road. Do you consider going into this game, against the Texans with Carson Wentz and say to yourself, hey, listen, like, let's see if we can get through this one. We're playing a good football team, but let's give Patrick time and maybe he'll be available for this game. And of course, you have to look and see how things shake out today, right? It would be wonderful if both the Bills and the Steelers lost. Could help inform your decision-making. But how do you think this whole thing plays out?
Yeah, I mean, you're right as far as if the Eagles and Lions win, but part of me sits here and goes, Pat needs to get healthy. Pat needs to get right. If a week off is what's best for him, you have him sit a week. If 2 weeks is what's best for him, you have him sit 2 weeks. Because end of the day, we saw the Chiefs last year go on the road, not as the 1 seed, and win the Super Bowl. If that's what happens, I will take a healthy or healthier Patrick than a banged up hobbling one. That's the way I'm looking at this right now. I need to see how serious it is. But if it's one of those situations where it's 50-50, sit him. Just sit him. And it puts more emphasis on Andy Reid's play calling, which maybe that's what he needs. I don't know why, but I always laugh and say, why does Andy Reid have better play calling when Patrick's out of the game than when he's in the game? Why do you run the ball more effectively? Why do you have Carson Wentz and Chad Henne and, whenever Matt Moore, whenever you were Kevin Cobb back in your Eagles days? Like, why do you he's known as a great quarterback coach, especially for backups. Nick Foles, like, why can't you do the same play calls with Patrick? Why can't you help him? Don't make Patrick help you, because you saw him help Carson Wentz when Carson came into the game. I love that about Andy, but why don't we see some of those play calls when Patrick's in the game?
Yeah. And that's the thing down the stretch. Like, look, Mahomes is hurt because of the play calling. Like, you're winning this game. Yes, it's a 2-score game, but the only time these guys scored was a blown play on a run. You've been locking them down. They've benched Jameis Winston. They're bringing in Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who's not good. Okay. Like, your defense is playing lights out. Trust them, protect your quarterback, because things were getting frothy there at the end of the game. Like, the protection was holding up pretty good in the first half. And as the game went on, they started getting through a little bit. They started poking holes in the Chiefs defense, and just, you're winning the game. Just run out the clock. Like, just run the football. And they did end up with a decent amount of runs in this game, but in my opinion, not enough, especially the way that the game flow was going. So you're putting Patrick at risk. He's the franchise. And I'm with you. If you need to, I want that 1 seed bad, and I think they need it this year, but he's the franchise. So, they've gone in and won games with backup quarterbacks before. It won't matter if you don't have Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, because if he can't protect himself out there, or that ankle gets, and you know how, like, I've sprained my ankle. I used to be a runner. I was a cross-country runner, so I was running on trails and stuff. I've sprained both my ankles more times than I can remember. And they just keep going. You know what I mean? Like, once you sprain it and it's weakened, you keep rolling it, you keep turning it. And if you don't let it heal, and even after that, it's weaker. So it could get worse. It could be inflamed on him. You don't want that come the playoffs. So we'll just have to see. We'll see how the treatment goes. He does have the world's freakiest bendy ankles and, like, legs in general. It seems like he's Gumby. So who knows? He'll probably feel like $1 million. Shout out to Slothy for the super chat, who says, I don't know what y'all are talking about. Given Mahomes' track record with bum ankles, I was cheering when he got hurt because the injury just won us the Super Bowl. All right, Slothy, you just watch it there, man. That's dangerous territory you're wading into there. I know what you're trying to say. But saying that you were cheering when Patrick Mahomes got injured, that just don't sit right with me.
It's a bold move.
It's a bold move. All right, look. Update on the score. The Lions just scored a touchdown. Goff to Tim Patrick for 12-yard touchdown. That's going to make it 14 Buffalo, 7 Detroit. So it looks like we've got a ball game in that one, although the Bills are out to a good start. And the Eagles are up 10-3 on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jalen Hurts, who has been struggling quite a bit the last few weeks, is 8 for 8 for 104 yards and a touchdown. And A.J. Brown, who's been very frustrated, has 4 receptions for 48 yards and a touchdown. So the Chiefs guys are in the fight here. All right, Sterling, should we give away some hardware?
Let's give it away, baby.
All right. It's time for earning their arrowheads, where we hand out some arrowheads to Chiefs players we thought did a fantastic job in the game. Sterling, why don't you kick us off? Who gets arrowheads from you?
I really want to give it to the entire Chiefs defense, but that's just unfair. I'll give it to 3 players. I'll do 3 players. I will do 1, George Karlaftis. I thought George Karlaftis was a madman in this one. He was winning quick at times, and then he also won with a motor play. George Karlaftis Frank Clark had a great playoff career for Kansas City, but when he came to Kansas City, all we heard about was Frank Clark's motor. This is almost what we thought Frank Clark's motor was going to look like, and that's George Karlaftis. So happy to see Karlaftis get some sack numbers, right? Some actual box score recognition for some of his play, because I do think he sometimes goes unrecognized. So I'll give 1 to Karlaftis. I'll give a second one to Christian Roland Wallace. Not only did Christian Roland Wallace look good on that special teams play where he knocked it out, but a couple times he was out there in coverage, and I thought he played pretty well. You're going to need to see Christian Roland Wallace, especially with the concerns with Joshua Williams and Najee Johnson, obviously with Shamari Connor going out. So I want to give a shout out to Christian Roland Wallace, right? There's a lot I want to give to, but let me give 1 offensively. That is, I don't want to take them all from you. So I'm giving 1 to Trey Smith, because, again, I thought Trey Smith was an absolute road grader. I mean, no one wanted to get in his way. He was moving dudes left and right. When they ran behind Trey, that's when the Chiefs actually had some effectiveness on the ground. So I'm giving my final arrowhead to Trey Smith.
A worthy group. And I don't think you got any in mind, so that's good. We did well here. Look, I'm going to give 1 to Joe Toney. That's Myles Garrett over there, man. What a fantastic job he did playing that whole game at left tackle. Held up great. And you mentioned that they did give him a lot of help, and they did. But I think the help was more effective than when they gave help to Wanye Morris or Kingsley Suamataia, because he wasn't getting beat immediately. So, if he gets beat immediately, which was happening to Wanye, particularly those last 2 games, then all of a sudden your help is out of position, and it's not a very good situation to be in. He was holding his own. In fact, there was the one play that actually kind of blew up the play, and Pat got hit low because Toney was holding his own, and Caliendo didn't have anybody else to block, and he came around and knocked Myles Garrett down and knocked him into Patrick. So that was an interesting little sequence right there. But yeah, I give 1 to Joe Toney. Shout out to Charles Omenihu, man. The pass rush starting to take shape. I think a big part of that is Charles Omenihu being back. Obviously, he racked up a sack in this one as well. And I've got to give 1 to Turk Wharton, man. He had a sack. He had that great spin play on the run. He's just having a sensational season. So I'm really happy for him. And then 1 more. I've got to give 1 to Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston, you've never played for the Chiefs, but for today only, hey, you got a helmet with no logo on it there in Cleveland. The red on orange ain't going to look good, but it's going to look better than it does right now. 3 interceptions to Jameis Winston, giving a little bit of juice to this Kansas City Chiefs defense, setting them up for a big day. So Jameis Winston earned his arrowhead.
Great call, because I was like, how do I give it to Trip McDuffie and maybe Jaden Hicks as well? Just give it to Jameis. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Jameis
was
Winston,
fantastic for the Chiefs today.
Yeah, that was just so happy for Trent McDuffie. That interception too was a tough one. I mean, he was getting his face mask, it looked like, was getting held, and he was getting his head turned the wrong way. Had to stay in bounds, and super happy for Trent McDuffie to get his first career interception there.
It's crazy. It's his first one, isn't it? He's been so good, but that's kind of what happens when you're a really good corner. People don't throw at you. You don't get a lot of opportunities like that for the picks. And yeah, it was very, very exciting for McDuffie to get his first. Hicks. It's awesome. All right, everybody, we are going to bounce. Listen, what you need to do, 2 things. If you're watching on YouTube, 3 things. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button. And make sure you're subscribed. If you want to become a member of the Arrowhead Addict community, check out the link in the description. It's a great way to get involved and to support the show. And then number 3, you need to head on over to arrowheadaddict.com. That's our website, where we're going to have wall-to-wall coverage on everything going on. And this is a really big week that you're going to want to be following that. They're going to be all over the games and the race for the number 1 seed, the Patrick Mahomes injury, the Jamari Connor injury, anything else coming out of this game, not just tonight, but tomorrow, all the fallout, all week long, getting you ready for this Texans game. So make sure you're reading Matt Connor and everybody else over at arrowheadaddict.com. Shout out to Adam Best, Matt Connor, Price Carter, and of course producer Richard. Welcome back from his adventures in the great north there in Canada. Having a good time up there. I saw he was in a karaoke bar. Probably shut them down up there. Showed them how it's done there in Canada. And of course, my co-host for today's show, Sterling Holmes, and to all of our members in the Arrowhead Addict community. My name is Patrick Allen. We will see you guys next week. But until then, the Chiefs are 13-1. Go Chiefs.